but that's like part of the, for me, it's just like more talking about my experiences with it, because I don't even think I'm ready to defend it.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. Me, I look at it like I might not be ready to defend the faith from every angle by any means, but the church is.
Yeah.
So for example,
Precisely.
like I didn't. It's you know how they say you and what army?
Yeah.
Like you have the entire army of God.
1.2 billion people.
You know what I mean?
A lot of them who know a lot about specific things.
100%, and not just those part of the church militant, but part of the church triumphant.
Yeah.
Right? I think that's what they call it.
Yeah.
And so you're talking about the celestial heaven empire where Jesus is at right now physically.
Yeah.
And the saints are there. And there's horses there, and there's swords there, and there's majesty there. So we got the picture of this royal, powerful, everlasting empire, and they got our backs through it all. I tell people, like, when I was Protestant, I used to boast a lot more than I do now. Okay, and I used to tell people, even if I die, even if you kill me, I still win. Yeah. There's no losing for a Christian. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So it's crazy.
Beautiful.
It's profound.
Well,
right?
It's also interesting because you talk about having the saints in heaven with you. You'll notice sometimes when you're talking about something like, I'm not sure I know all about this, and then it's not you speaking anymore. Something else is speaking, and you can feel it.
100%.
And it's the Holy Spirit speaking through you, and it's the saints in heaven guiding you through it. Especially when you're talking to a non-believer. That's where I notice it the most.
Right. Speaking about the saints, the reason why we're recording this is because I heard a little glimpse of the story, right? Where you have this mystical sequence of events that leads you to choose Saint Francis of Assisi.
Who I knew nothing about.
Who you knew nothing about. Yeah. And so you're about to be confirmed into the church. You have to pick a confirmation saint. Yep. So tell me how it led up to you picking St. Francis.
Yeah, so this is confirmation pick was about 3 days ago. Do I look there?
Yeah, sure,
okay,
sure, tell
perfect.
them. Yeah.
Or tell you, yeah.
Yeah.
But so 3 days ago is when we picked officially, and I still had a little bit of hesitancy because I was big on St. Maximilian Kolbe initially.
Okay.
But about a week prior to that, I was in Hawaii. I was with my family. We were, doing the Kauai kind of stuff, enjoying the beach. My mom finally took a vacation. Yeah. And I had gone to bed about 9 o'clock or so, and I kind of was in and out of sleep at about 3 in the morning. Went back to bed, and I was lucid dreaming at the time, and I was sitting at a table actually very similar to this, at a picnic table with John F. Kennedy, out of all people.
Good Catholic.
Yeah, good Catholic. And I'm a big fan of JFK, so there's nothing abnormal there.
Right.
And I'm talking to him, and he told me, I see you becoming a great leader in the future, and your Catholic faith will be of vital importance.
Come on.
Just as it was for me.
Wow.
And this was the point where I really got lucid.
Yeah.
And I was like, I know I'm dreaming right now. And I was like, what is going on? I'm kind of looking around. I'm like, I'm talking to JFK. He's dead. This is bizarre. And he tells me, I know this is a lot right now, but my patron saint is St. Francis of Assisi. He will be yours. Look it up when you wake up.
No way.
Truth.
Okay.
Truth.
Okay.
Look it up when you wake up, and it will all be verified. I wake up probably 5 or 6 in the morning, fully remembering all of it. I am like freaked out. I'm like, what the heck? So I'm waiting to look it up and see that it's someone totally different.
Yeah.
And I look it up, and the first thing it says is John F. Kennedy's patron saint was St. Francis.
Wow.
And I was like, okay, maybe it's St. Francis Xavier. Then I can reject all this. This is just something crazy.
Right.
No, St. Francis of Assisi.
Wow.
Who I had no idea it was him. And the part of it, if it had just been JFK saying that, it's like, okay, just a freaky dream, right? But the fact that it went out of its way in that experience to confirm it for me.
Right.
To fully have him go that far when I knew nothing about that. I had only recently, maybe a year ago, even learned he was Catholic.
Wow.
I had never understood that even through my studies, and I love JFK. He's one of my favorite presidents.
Me too.
Yeah,
that's
cool,
crazy.
Cool dude.
Yeah.
Fought the deep state before it was cool.
Dude. and I honestly believe. Well, no, okay, that's a strong statement.
Yeah.
I kind of believe that JFK was the last president that slipped through as like in a very human way.
Yep.
And I'm still dealing with this because I know I have flaws in my worldview and different things because of these conspiracies.
Yeah.
Right? But there's some validity to some of these conspiracies. So how do I line this up correctly? I've kind of learned that it's not the most important thing in the world, but it is good to at least straighten some things out in your view.
For sure.
You know what I mean? And so, you know, I read the conspiracies like, oh, JFK's not dead. Oh,
Yeah.
JFK was wearing red bottoms, and that means that he was sacrificing babies too. And in order to become a president, you have to be a Mason and all these little different things, man. But I think regardless if those things are true, maybe not all of them, maybe like let's say he was part of a boys club, he was part of a Masonic club.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know that. But what it seems to me from observing his life is that morally he was convicted.
Yeah.
And
fell away from it at times too.
Right,
Made massive mistakes.
For sure.
Yeah.
Whether he was messing around with Marilyn Monroe or whatever it might have been.
Yeah.
But we're no better.
Yeah.
And no human in this world is any better. Like I've seen that firsthand. Like the second you think that you're God's gift to the earth or already a uppercase saint, you know, you're gonna be humbled. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
but okay, so you wake up and you look it up.
I rolled over in bed, grabbed my phone. I always keep it on my nightstand. I'm a screenager. I'll be the first one to admit it.
Yeah.
I'm looking at that thing before I go to bed.
Yeah.
But I roll over, I grab my phone off the charger, look it up, and at first it's that little Google AI that pops up, and all it shows is just St. Francis was his patron saint.
Yeah.
And like I told you, I'm like, okay, please be St. Francis Xavier. Please don't let this be like a valid thing.
Yeah.
And then it's St. Francis of Assisi, and I'm like, okay, so now I got to learn about him. And his life correlated with mine a lot. Like in college, I lived that life, the crazy party life. I was president of my fraternity. You know, that was my life at the time, similar for him.
The president gets perks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I got my perks. I was in a fraternity group, but it was very similar to St. Francis because he lived a very hedonistic life initially until he came to Christ.
Wow.
And changed his path. And he was described as a strong leader. That's always how people talk about him as a saint, loved animals. And it was so profound. It's also while I'm in Kauai and I'm seeing sea turtles, I'm seeing all these different animals. And I remember thinking in the back of my head, like, wow, this is post St. Francis experience. Like now I have this new appreciation for animals too on this trip. It was just a very, very spiritual thing, hard to explain.
Yeah.
And I majored in philosophy, trust me. Like the way I look at faith is very logically approached.
Right.
At times even in fault.
I see what you're saying.
But to have an experience like that and try and explain that, I'm like, I can't like logic through this. This was just something I can't explain.
Yeah.
And it was extremely powerful.
Yeah. And I think, you know, you're telling me this, but it's like you're repeating it. You've told me before, right? This philosophy thing, this reason thing, this theology thing, right? And so to me, it makes sense that this mystical experience happened to you, because how you say this, like, all right, me, I may be more sensational or mystical in the way that I see things or move things, right? Or move in life. So guess what? God sends me reason to ground me. To make sure that I don't float off into the abyss and start telling people that, you know, that the devil's the Kraken and these symbols are this and, you know, all this bullcrap.
You don't become Carl Jung.
You know what I mean? So God, but that doesn't take away from, you know what I was thinking the other day, bro, is everything is mystical.
Yeah.
These trees, these buildings, this existence, the air hitting us right now, it is a mystical experience.
Yeah.
And it's become so normal in our lives that we don't think it's mystical.
Yeah.
But I don't know if you've ever like kind of been away from nature for a very long time.
Yeah.
And then you enter nature.
You can feel it.
And you can feel it, see it. It almost looks fake. Like the trees almost look fake. It's so real. It's almost fake.
Yeah.
And you know, so I think the mystical experience is part of life, no matter what. But distinctly, St. Francis of Assisi had this connection with animals.
Yeah.
And you're saying during your stay there, for some reason, you felt that kind of elevate in your own life.
I think after and more when I read his story too. I knew enough about him initially to know that he's always portrayed with animals. So that was about the extent of my knowledge of him before, and I still have a lot more to learn. But I just noticed that after that, I had a really good experience in Hawaii, better than I've ever had, because I now have this new appreciation for the creatures around me. And I'm seeing them as God's creatures that deserve protection and love. And it's just like the whole thing was transformative. And you talked to me before about how St. Maximilian Kolbe was my favorite. I loved how he handled everything in World War II.
Right.
And just to have that experience, I almost am like, I'm sorry, Maximilian. Like, I'm sorry I ditched you, but it had to be Francis of Assisi.
Mm-hmm. And they're communicating.
Yeah.
Right. Like he's seen this purpose, because it sounds like there's a purpose here. If JFK is in your dream telling you that there's something in your leadership that you need your Catholic faith for, there's a purpose. There's something destined for you, and you're being prepared for it, is what I hear. Yeah. You know what I mean? And it's like, what is that? You know?
And it's scary because I don't know.
Yeah. We could be looking at the next president of the United States.
Hopefully not. Hopefully not. I would make a terrible president.
Yeah.
No, it was very interesting, and like I said, it was easy to write off at first just with JFK, because it's whatever. I read about him, maybe he's just in my dream, my subconscious mind, whatever Sigmund Freud would have said, but not when he gave me confirmation about that. Not when he said, you go look it up. And I remembered that as the most vivid part of the whole dream.
Wow.
So,
Very
interesting, very profound. And I had prayed, a note to anyone who's watching, I prayed the rosary for about a week before, and was asking for guidance on who my confirmation saint should be.
Wow.
Because I like St. Maximilian. But I didn't feel a connection to a saint. I didn't feel a saint calling me. It felt like more I was reaching out for one, and that works too. For a lot of people, that's what works. But I had prayed just for some guidance about who I should emulate.
Wow.
And to have that, and it was never St. Francis of Assisi. That was never in my mind.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, it's amazing.
We're here at my high school, St. Francis Xavier, and I barely knew the difference between the two. I'm a recent convert, so it's all new.
Okay, so you were a Presbyterian, right?
I explored Presbyterianism.
Okay.
I kind of explored around everywhere. So I was, like I said 3 times already, philosophy major, devoutly atheist, like Christopher Hitchens level, maybe more agnostic, kind of thinking about things. And then I just kind of felt a spark that I now would recognize as the Holy Spirit.
Wow.
Guiding me to look for different churches. So my senior year of college, I made some friends who are Catholic who were really helpful in my conversion experience, kind of shattering the stigmas that Catholicism gets.
Yeah.
And I looked at some Protestant churches, and it felt just too lukewarm. It felt very lukewarm, and it felt like they were missing something.
Wow.
There's some that are closer to the fullness, I would say, and like Presbyterianism, Lutheranism, I felt that, but came to a Catholic church and realized, wow, this is home. It's what I texted you after you sent me the video, like, this is home. That's all I'm able to say right now.
Right.
So.
Dang, this is Mitch, man. We're both getting confirmed into the church. Mañana, tomorrow, 7 p.m., St. Francis Xavier by the big bad Jesuits.
Right where I went to high school. This was my high school.
Heck yeah. Appreciate you, bro.
Yeah, appreciate you. Man. God bless.
God bless you, bro. Peace. Let's do it.
That's so cool, dude. Just pop it down.
Yeah.